little late. It's about 1:20, little after 1:20. Uh, I was out chasing down the mailman, the mail person actually, as she was supposed to drop off a package, and it said it was delivered, and yet I couldn't find it anywhere. My cat is coming in to join us for a conversation. Usually I have the door shut and I forgot to shut it, so she is here. She's going to be meowing, and she'll have something to say for sure. Um, so anyway, yeah, Amazon said that the book, it was a book, um, was delivered, and it wasn't at my doorstep. And I checked my neighbors, which I'm always a little concerned about because I don't want my neighbors to think that I am raiding their doorstep for a package. Um, and then I saw the mail person, it's actually a lady, and I flagged her down, and she had the package she thought she had delivered. She scanned it and put it next to her and totally forgot about it. It happens. So I'm happy that I chased it down, but now I'm a little later on my um, talk. I almost said podcast. I don't really know what to call this. Just a conversation. Conversation basically about whatever comes up. Sometimes it's about yoga and meditation and breath work. Very often it's about burpees. Um, and quite often about training, diet. I'm going to take Duncan's suggestion. Um, I'm going to do a book review. I mentioned this book yesterday. Not really a book review. Um, Barefoot Burpees is here. It says he can hang around for 10 minutes. That's good. It's not going to be a super long conversation. Um, as I'm getting a late start myself, and I have a few things to do. So I'm hoping that Duncan will. Sorry, I'm paying attention to my cat. So one of my cats, so that she doesn't become too insistent. I'm hoping that Duncan will make an appearance and give us the answer to the riddle. Hey, vegan lasagna. That sounds really good. Um, Mocha can veganize just about anything. So if there's like a favorite recipe that someone has, she has a way of making it vegan, including cheesecake, which you wouldn't think could be done, but she is capable of doing it. And it always turns out very well. So I was going to talk about two books briefly, although, if any comments pop up, we'll veer off and talk about the comments as well. The books are by the same author. I read them years apart. The first book is anyone can see it, and of course it's going to be flipped around backwards, right? I'm not sure how to fix that. Um, it is Meditation by Agnathus Warren. Agnathus Warren was an East Indian, uh, Hindu by faith, and he traveled to the United States in the late 50s, early 60s on a Fulbright scholarship and started teaching at Berkeley, California. At Berkeley, he started to offer classes on the Bhagavad Gita. He actually taught English literature. Surprising. And he was a quite successful professor for 30 plus years at Berkeley. After class, though, he started holding some lectures, informal talks on the Bhagavad Gita. And you can't talk about the Bhagavad Gita without talking about meditation. So he was asked about meditation, and he was more than happy to teach it. His method, and it's one of the first methods that I discovered and stuck with for a very long time in the early 90s, is a little different. He calls it passage meditation. It's also a form of contemplation, deep contemplation. You take a passage from a spiritual source that has meaning to you. Hey, Duncan, we're waiting to hear the answer to your riddle. So I'm talking about a book. I'm doing a brief little review upon your suggestion yesterday, which both Mocha and I thought were a very good suggestion. So take your time, Duncan. 5 minutes and I'll try to wrap up my brief little book review. So passage meditation, you take from whatever spiritual source has meaning for you. You take a passage from there. He recommends starting with the prayer of St. Francis, under the premise that you become what you meditate on. And there's nothing more aspiring, as well as inspiring, than the prayer of St. Francis, which begins, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Now, it could be from the Bible. It could be from a prayer, popularized by a saint. It could be from the Bhagavad Gita, from one of the Upanishads. It could be, Thomas, how are you? It could be from a Native American tradition. The thing is, it should be a certain length. It doesn't have to be challenging, but you want to be able to work your way through it. At the same time, you want it to have been around for a while. You don't want to take something from a modern popular book and use that, because you want something that's been meditated on as a tradition for generations, which is, again, prayer of St. Francis, or something from the Bhagavad Gita, or from one of the Upanishads, the Tao Te Ching. It doesn't matter, and he offers passages in the back of his book. With passage meditation, you start at the beginning, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. You do it at a very slow, even pace. Your eyes are closed, you're sitting comfortably, you're thinking it to yourself, allowing each word to drop within your consciousness as if it's a stone being dropped in water, and the ripples will carry you towards a deeper state of silence as you fall in between the silence in between each word. You work your way through the prayer. When your mind wanders, which it will, that's the nature of the mind, even after decades of meditation, you just gently start over at the beginning. You're teaching yourself patience, you're teaching yourself kindness, and you are sinking again into that pure silence of consciousness that's present between each and every word within that prayer. It's always present. It's the gap. That's how you meditate. And you do that for 30 minutes once a day, according to Eknath Niswaran. When I first wanted to learn how to meditate, even back then, transcendental meditation was out of my price range. It's still out of my price range. And I was looking at other sources. I couldn't find anything I liked. Most Buddhist meditation practices, doesn't require a teacher, but I thought I might be better served if I had a teacher. I came across the book, simply titled Meditation. I believe it's now titled Passage Meditation. And he begins the book with the assumption that you bought this book because you wanted to learn how to meditate. And then he goes on and he teaches you how to meditate. And the entire book is dedicated to learning meditation, as well as, Lewis, how are you? Learning meditation, as well as following his 8-point program. It's a complete handbook, not just on meditation, but on transforming your life. The wonderful thing about transforming your life through meditation, through yoga, through breath work, through burpees, it's a transformation that doesn't require conscious effort on our part. We're not sitting down and saying, I need a change. We're allowing a process to take place that changes us from within. Thomas is probably familiar with this, as well as Barefoot, from the practice of martial arts, especially Barefoot with his practice of internal martial arts, which is a little different, a little more energy focused than a lot of the harder style martial arts. It's a wonderful book. If anyone wants to learn meditation, I first suggest that you contact me because I teach meditation for a living. However, if you want to learn how to meditate for free, although I teach my friends how to meditate by donation, whatever they can afford. Not even what they can afford, what they want to pay, put it that way. However, barring that, if you want to learn a different type of meditation, one that I practiced for, again, all through the 90s until I took up primordial sound meditation, which is what I now teach. I started practicing that, I believe, in 98. The book, Meditation. And if you purchase the book, the title is actually the way it's supposed to be. It's only the mirror image as I hold it up. So I highly, highly recommend not just the book Meditation, but everything Eknath Warren has ever written. And he's written translations of the Bhagavad Gita, of all of the Upanishads, of some biblical verses, all kinds of stuff. And it's just a wonderful teacher. My favorite, aside from the meditation book, is Dialogue with Death. And it is, I talked about this yesterday, it is the teachings of the Katha Upanishads. And it deals with Nachita, who is a young boy who finds himself in the realm of hell, talking with, well, let's say the underworld. I don't want to say hell. In the underworld, talking with the Lord of Death and having him becoming his teacher and teaching him about death, more than death. To understand death is to understand life. The two are interchangeable. The same thing, really, because life doesn't exist without death. Death doesn't exist without life. So that is a basic bare bone book review. Two very important books in shaping my life from the early 90s onwards. It was meditation that brought me from a habit of daily drinking. I always tell people I was a social drinker, but I found every reason in the world to be sociable. I was sociable in the morning, I was sociable in the afternoon, I was sociable every single night of the week. Didn't matter. The only time I wasn't sociable, when I was practicing judo in the early 90s, and it was just too painful to take a fall when you're hungover and everything's sloshing around. But I never missed a workout, no matter through all that drinking. But I did wreck my life. I drank myself out of relationships. I drank myself out of jobs. I drank myself out of friendships. I was good-natured social drinker, but I just did it so often that it damaged me. When I became serious about meditation, everything changed. Everything. Without any effort. I never said I'm going to quit drinking. It just no longer served a purpose in my life, whatever that purpose might have been, and it ended. As well as my diet changed. Everything. So that's it for meditation. That's it for a book review. And now, if everyone is ready, I know the only reason why, I think at one point there was 6 people viewing. And the only reason anyone is here right now is to find out the answer from Duncan Walsh, Fitness Motivation, on the answer to his riddle that he posed to all of us yesterday. And we didn't have, thanks Barefoot, I appreciate that. And none of us had an answer. Although, Duncan, before you reveal, does anyone have any answers? Does anyone think they reached that source of high inspiration and they've solved the riddle? Me, I have not. I've thought about it, but I don't have any answer. I was counting on Barefoot to have it, but he has no answer as well. So, if no one else has a guess, Duncan, whenever you're ready. I know we're all going to slap ourselves on the head because it's probably going to be fairly obvious. Duncan says, so you would ask either of the guardians, but let's say you ask Guardian 1. If I was to ask the other Guardian, which is the door to heaven, what would he say? I'm trying to wrap my head around that. What? Okay, so now Guardian number 1 was, he would say, Duncan says, let's say the Guardian replies, he would say door A. Duncan continues with, now if Guardian 1 is telling the truth, Guardian 2 would indeed say door A, but he would be lying, so the answer would be door B for the door to heaven. Interesting. Still tumbling around in my mind. I might have to consider this for if Guardian 1 is lying, then Guardian 2 would say door A. He would say door B, but would be telling the truth. So again, the door to heaven is door B. So, does that resonate with anyone? Duncan continues and says, so in a nutshell, whatever answer is given, the door to heaven is the opposite door. Oh, okay. Door that tells you. If you try it with different scenarios, it works. Okay. Your closing argument makes sense. Interesting. It is almost like a Zen koan, where you really need to think of it on a deeper, actually not even think of it, get it past your, Barefoot says we'll have to think it through or read it through. That's the way I felt. Duncan's last comment, though, clarified it a bit for me. So, again, with the Zen koan, it's not so much thinking. It's not a logical. This is logical. That's why it escapes me. Nothing in my life has ever been done logically. That's why I'm here. Logically, there is no reason for me to be throwing myself on the floor every morning and bouncing back up and calling it a burpee one time, let alone 200 times in a session. Duncan says that the lateral thinking aspect is that you ask one guardian what the other guardian would say. Okay. The more you explain it, the more sense it actually makes. Barefoot says he's layering lasagna. It can't concentrate. It would seem to me that layering lasagna would be a perfect meditation, because you have to avoid the anticipation of eating it, which doesn't serve any purpose. But you want it layered just right. So it is the Zen of lasagna. Duncan, thanks. I appreciate that. I appreciate the riddle. And again, as you mentioned, the lateral thinking aspect, which again is why it just went whoosh right over my head. I'm gonna I'm gonna skip the riddles for now. I need a I need at least a day to digest this. I'm gonna see your riddle and give you a Zen cone, my favorite one. What did your face look like before you were born? What did your grandparents' face look like before you were born? Before they were born? As in as working with any cone, there is no real answer. At least not one that we arrive at logically or with lateral thinking. We have to bypass thinking entirely. It's how Douglas Harding, the British philosopher, was actually an architect, but he became well known as a philosopher, and he started the headless way. He was during World War II and stationed in India. He was in the Himalayan mountains, and he was looking down, and he noticed that he could see his feet, he could see the ground, his feet, his legs, his body, but he could not see his head. He could not see his face. And that was a Zen moment for him. He realized the Heart Sutra of Buddhism, that emptiness is form and form is emptiness. He pointed at his body. He noticed that the world was full of things, but here, in the direction that he was pointing, towards the seer himself, the seer that was present, was completely absent. Couldn't find it. We've never seen our face before. We've seen reflections, we've seen photographs, we've seen drawings, we've heard descriptions. We see the tip of a nose emerging from nowhere. We might see a little bit of a mustache or a lip emerging from nowhere. For me, I see rims of glasses, but it's emerging from nothingness. Emptiness, form. I should be careful being on a live format and pointing and saying emptiness. People might get the wrong idea of what I'm saying. That is Zen in the essence. That's the ultimate Zen cone with an answer provided. Because within this emptiness, with only the seer, only the observer present, it's also the capacity for the entire world to appear. I see everything right here. So that's something to think about. Duncan asked if I am thinking of going ahead with some book reviews. I am. I just did, as we were preparing to have our minds blown by the answer of your riddle. Eknath S. Warren's meditation. And then I talked a little bit about his later book, Dialogue with Death, which again is from the Katha Upanishad. Katha Upanishad was actually early inspiration for Ralph Waldo Emerson and his essay on immortality. It's a wonderful, all the Upanishads are a wonderful thing to read. Same with the Bhagavad Gita. His translations of all of them are great, and his book, Dialogue with Death, is more about consciousness itself, the deep exploration of consciousness. So, to reiterate the book reviews, man, I'd like to do this every couple of sessions. As you can tell, I like books, and it would definitely fill up some time to me give a few book reviews. Let's see. It is what it is. Let's see. It is what it is says, so whatever door the first one is says, go with the other one, right? Well, I think it depends on, as long as you ask the right question, is my take. Burford says, nope, I still don't get the Guardian riddle. If it's actually door A and the Guardian is lying, he'll say Guardian 2 will say B. If he's in the truth, Guardian, he'll say Guardian 2 will say door A. All right. The problem with that is I was ready to accept the explanation. So now I'm going to have to reconsider and look at things from Barefoot Burpee's point of view. Destiny Forever Walks says happy Wednesday and blessings to you. Thank you, Destiny. I hope all is well in your home turf in Florida. I was just watching your dance video right before I came live. Destiny says, right, we still don't get it. Barefoot Burpees. Well, I thought I did. Well, not get it, but I accepted the premise put forward by Duncan. It seemed logical. And now Barefoot is offering some counter logic to that. What I propose is hopefully one day I'll have Duncan and Barefoot live, joining me live, and there will be a point counterpoint discussion on which Guardian was actually telling the truth. There should be some type of consequences to be to whoever can prove the other one is incorrect owes them 100 Navy SEALs. Dusty said that in the area where I live, it's okay. Thanks for your prayers for our state of Florida. I'm always, it's just always a tragic event because there's going to be so much damage wherever it makes landfall. And just a yearly thing, it seems. And it's getting harder and harder to have the right insurance, and this so much damage is caused and so little can be done. Thomas says we're gonna need to ask Batman to clear up this riddle. I think Batman would probably be in line with Duncan. And Barefoot is saying that, yeah, Destiny, I need more explaining, but I'll read Duncan's message again, which I think will be helpful. Rereading it. Destiny, if you scroll up a bit, Duncan revealed the answer to the riddle. Not all of us are in complete agreement. Thomas says that's a strong endorsement. It was one question to each Guardian, I believe. That's what Barefoot was asking. I am not. I'm not a riddle person because, again, I don't always make those logical jumps. Sometimes I can make an inspired leap, an inspired jump, but Barefoot, double check with Duncan He's saying that he thought it was one question period. I don't know. I thought it was one each. Maybe I'm mistaken. It is what it is. Says maybe ask him, do you believe in our Lord and Savior? Uh, one has to answer that for sure. Well, you would think. You would think maybe they would both. One being a guardian of hell, one being the guardian of heaven. Barefoot is talking lasagna again, waiting for lasagna, pre-cooked parts for the speed. Thomas says we'll have to go over that riddle more. Haven't done enough critical thought practice lately. I would have just accepted the answer and moved on. Barefoot put me in a conundrum. I'm not sure I should accept it. But again, pure logic itself does not play much of a role in my thinking. I can't say none, you do the logical thing each moment. But I generally, as I was saying, I take leaps of inspiration. If somebody would said to me, is it better to live an inspired life or a logical life? Not that the two actually have to be opposite of each other, but my answer would, for me, just me, I'd rather live an inspired life. I'd rather make that giant leap and land completely on my ass or on my face. And I have. Quite often, very frequently. Barefoot says, I suppose it's like logic gates and circuits. I just didn't realize it was two questions. I'm not 100% it was. So definitely check with Duncan. Like I said, I much prefer those type of koans, where many people consider it a riddle, but it isn't, because it doesn't have that logical conclusion. It escapes logic. It's beyond logic. It takes you to the realm of pure consciousness where things just exist. So, with that said, Thomas says it's nice to allow a little magic into life. I agree 100%. My life is almost entirely based on mystery. I just don't know. It's in the Zen tradition, specifically the Korean Zen tradition of don't know mind. We think we know. We think science knows. We think that this is why I prefer the Hebrew way of describing God. And they will say, God is, and leave it with that, because anything that you say afterwards is just a description and not the true thing. Same as in the Tao that can be told is not the true Tao. It's all mystery. We can point to it, we can live in it, we exist as it, but we can't fully describe it because it's removed. As it says in A Course in Miracles, that words are symbols twice removed. It's also why Herman Melville said silence is the only true voice of God. It is what it is. Says his won't be vegetarian though. Thomas says, yes, it's always a joy to hear these groups interact. I agree. It's just a whole lot of fun. And it always gets me thinking in different ways, whether it's about training, diet, meditation, all the stuff that we talk about. Burford says that his wife loves lasagna. I made the white sauce with oat milk, yeast flakes, fried onions, and mushroom stock. That actually sounds really good. Very good. The trick is trying to keep it upright during the halving. It is what it is, says Costco lasagna is the bomb. Man, it's been ages since my diet is so simple these days. It's fruit, it's vegetables, oatmeal, grains, lentils, and more fruit. That's it. Destiny says, I love reverencing God as all that is, because he is our divine creator and our everything. All that is a beautiful description. All that can be, all that is, all that can be. Every possibility already a given in the name of the creator. It is what it is, says he hasn't had the lasagna in years, but Barefoot over here is making me think. You know what? My guess is going to be a Costco trip, probably within 5 or 10 minutes. Thomas was saying that, oh yeah, also a great gift for people who know going through anything stressful, easy, and delicious for dinner. Yeah, that's true. You know, the convenience of just being able to run out somewhere and then put it in the oven. As far as stress, though, a lot of people, and I think maybe Barefoot might be one of them, because you can watch him training and he seems very meticulous in his actions. There would be a lot of stressor touch, almost a meditation, layering the lasagna, one layer at a time, getting it just right. I see the benefits of both. I'm inherently a lazy person, as I point out to Mocha all the time. And she's like, you just did 230 something burpees. How can you call yourself lazy? You've run 100 miles. How can you call yourself lazy? You wake up every morning at 3:30 to meditate and do yoga. Because I don't have to work for that stuff. All that is fun. That's joyful. That's the things that bring me a deep, deep, deep sense of joy to do. So I'm like the opposite of discipline. Everything in my life that looks like discipline, I'm just having a blast doing it. It is what it is, says his diet will change soon. Yeah, you're heading towards your hibernation stage. I really think that, Lewis, you should be teaching a bare secular fitness program based upon the hibernation habits of bears. Eat, 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 then sleep, hibernate, and then get up and get shit done. And then you go back to eat, 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 hibernate. Thomas says tonight he's making garbanzo bean burgers. That actually sounds really good too. I used to do that fairly often. Nowadays, with the Impossible Burger and Beyond Meat Burger, if I have a craving, and it's probably been 2 years since I've had one. I used to have them at least once a week when they first came out. Due to some health issues. Hey, Paul, I didn't even see you here. How are you? Barefoot says that he's going to film it and add it to a vid. That'd actually be pretty cool. I just ate not too long ago, Thomas, so I'm not too hungry. It is what it is, says Paul, the man with the plan. And he does have a really good plan right now for, here's what I loved seeing. Paul thought about what he wanted. For a long time, it was hit that goal with the burpees, and he did. And then he was in that in-between period. And then he pinpointed exactly what he wanted, his next goal, what he wanted to accomplish. He drew up a plan, and he started working there, towards there. A little twists and turns due to some, aches and pains, whatever. But he kept pivoting, staying on track, but making those adjustments. I have no doubt that Paul is going to master the rings. Destiny says that I love the chickpeas. Almost a perfect food. Chickpeas, I'm a big fan of lentils because I don't have to soak them. I put them in my Instant Pot with a cup of rice. That's my main meal for the day. I have that with steamed vegetables, steamed kale, and the ever-present banana. If I didn't add that in, I know Barefoot would be disappointed. Barefoot is saying, yeah, it's 7 here. On that note, he better serve it. Catch you next time. Barefoot, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. I'm glad you were here for the big reveal. Destiny is giving a big hello to Paul from Oregon. Thomas says that he relates. Often I'm frustrated by my ability to do work, but other things I freeze up over. Yeah, that's me. Of course, we can always reframe what we consider work. It is what it is, says that's a great idea, Eric. You know what? I've been putting so much out, I'm not even sure what my great idea was. That is the problem, the issue with talking quite a bit. The funny thing is, I will go the rest of the day and probably won't say 6 words out loud unless I'm talking to one of my cats. Throughout the day, aside from Mocha and Misty the Pomsky, which is a cross between a Husky and a Pomeranian. Aside from those two, the most meaningful conversations I have are with my cats. It's funny, Eckhart Tolle had said that he has known several Zen masters in his life, and all of them have been cats. Thomas says that he hopes everyone knows that I always lean towards comedy, but I don't ever want to the real serious conversations. You know what? All of my conversations, no matter what, are on the light side. Comedy is always welcome. Humor is always welcome. Mocha would testify to that 100%. And you can't have an overly serious conversation with Paul from Oregon in the room. It's just not going to happen. There you go. Thomas says the bear program. That's the one that Lewis needs to be putting out. Had to lean up for the summer and plump up for the winter. And Thomas says, and decorate cookies with my son. That actually sounds pretty good too. Duncan says he may be getting a couple cats this year. 2 of my dogs passed away, and I was just not ready for any pet. Caregiving for my father, I didn't want to have cats because they're a big tripping hazard for, my dad was working with a cane at the time. And last year there was 2 cats that they were rescue cats. They needed a home. They were sisters. They were 10 years old. They were black cats, and it seemed people didn't want to have black cats. And I thought, if I can save them. My father had passed away. I appreciate the company. And cats are pretty good company because they ask for so little, except for when they want something, and then they ask constantly. Paul says that he derails often, in a good way. Destiny says that she always enjoys the discussions and fellowship here. And again, fellowship. I just love that expression. I have to go now, and I will see you another time. Blessing and love to you and to everyone in the chat. Enjoy your day. Yep, I'm going to be wrapping things up too, Destiny. So thank you and keep being safe. I hope that the worst of the storm is over for you guys. It is what it is. Asked if mukbangs entertaining to you guys. I actually don't know what a mukbang is. Mukbang. Duncan asked if I have kids. I have a stepchild, Duncan, who is now 30 years old. I became her stepfather when she was 9. When Mocha went overseas, she was in the Air Force for 23 years. She went overseas and did a tour in Iraq, 2007, 2008. And I was her sole caregiver for just about a year. Paul says he never watched one, Lewis, because I assume it would annoy me and make me hungry more than I usually am. Destiny says, thank you, and thank you too. Thank you for being here. Thomas says, mixed feelings about him. I still don't know what they are, so I'll Google it when we're done. Oh, Lewis says, it's where you eat a lot of food in front of a camera. Yeah, no, that wouldn't work for me. And that definitely wouldn't work for Mocha, as she is noise sensitive, particularly in regards to people eating. Thomas says there's some horrific ones of women who eats lobster whole with her bare teeth. Yeah. Yep, I would not be interested in watching anyone eat. I don't even want to watch myself eat, actually. Duncan is asking if I was starting the book reviews. I actually did, Duncan, at the very beginning, as we were waiting for you. And I gave a brief on Ignatius Warren's instructional booklet on meditation. And again, if you look and you purchase the book, the title was not backwards. It's only here. And Dialogue with Death, again by Ignatius Warren. Very important teacher in my life. Let's see. Thomas is saying there's a whole conspiracy theory rabbit hole around it. Yeah, nowadays there's a conspiracy theory about everything. Duncan, if you watch the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it is the book review. Duncan says Dialogue with Death. You recommend? I do. Very much so. It is, again, it's based upon the Katha Upanishad, which is an ancient Vedic text stemming from India. And the young boy, Nachita, finds himself in the underworld. His father was a very wealthy man who, the tradition of the time, was to donate something towards a temple or the guru or whatever higher source. and he donated a bunch of cows, and he was receiving all of these accolades. And his son knew the value of the cows were very little. They were all sick. They were all old. They had very little worth. And he got upset with his father for his pompous behavior, believing that he needed this praise for something that meant so little to him. And his father said, if you don't like it, basically, you can go to hell. And Nechita took him to his words, and he actually went into the underworld and confronted death. He was given 3 favors. His last favor, because the Lord of Death made him wait, which is a big no-no, even in the underworld. And as a way of apologizing, he said, I will give you 3 wishes, grant you 3 favors. And he asked for forgiveness from his father, and for things to be returned the way they were. And lastly, he wanted to understand consciousness itself. He wanted to understand life. He wanted to understand death. They're in a relation with each other. He wanted the secrets of the world, secrets of life. And the Lord of Death said, no, anything but that. I'm not going to grant you that. And yet, he was insistent. That's what I want. There was no way out of the deal. He was given these 3 favors, so he had to relent. Now, the thing is, the Lord of Death wanted to teach all of this, but he had to test him to make sure this is what you really want, because the ways of higher consciousness, as it says in the Katha Upanishad, the spiritual path is like a razor's edge, which is where that book got its title from, as well as the movie that came later. That's a book by Somerset Maugham, which was a very important book for me as well. So, dialogue with death is the conversation between Nechita and the Lord of Death, but it has less to do with death and more to do with life and consciousness itself, the way of yoga, the way of meditation, the way of life. And again, so I highly, highly recommend it. Should be available. It's definitely available on Amazon. And if you want it and you can't find it, if it's not on Amazon, send me a message. I will send you my copy. Thomas says that my son and our lovely neighbor play a genie game, so he has been inquisitive about the nature of wishes. It's the nature of manifestation. Everything comes from the unmanifest world. The answer for so much for me always lies in the Heart Sutra, which is probably the most recited Zen text in Buddhism. And it begins with light, that emptiness is form, form is emptiness. And the key phrase is, the word is. It isn't that emptiness becomes form. It isn't that form regresses back to emptiness. It's the same exact thing, the continuous becoming of the unmanifest to the manifest back to the unmanifest. Seamlessly so. That's how life works. That's how physics works. That's what happens when we die. Is there something other? I don't know. I always refer to Suzuki Roshi, the Zen master who wrote Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. On his deathbed, he was asked by his students, what happens now? What will happen to you after you die? And he said, I don't know. I have no idea. How would I know? And they said, well, you're a Zen master, right? To which his answer was, but I'm not a dead Zen master. That's the mystery. Paul from Oregon says, I think there's a reason why wish givers are always mischievous and possibly relevant in the fables and stories. Yeah, the trickster, Puka, and the Celtic world. That's what Harvey was in the movie Harvey, if anyone, besides me is old enough to remember that movie. Jimmy Stewart. If there's anyone besides me who's old enough to remember Jimmy Stewart. Um, Thomas says it depends on what your definition of it is. And saying that was his take. Be careful what you wish for. You can't escape the tax man. It is what it is. Says it's official, Eric. My wife signed me up for the Rock and Roll Marathon next year. Awesome. That's such a Rock and Roll Marathons are seem to be a lot of fun. Paul from Oregon said the bunny rabbit. Exactly. Thomas says, hell yeah, Lewis in Vegas. Thomas says that was a Bill Clinton reference. San Diego in June is when the race is. It's going to be an awesome race. You're going to rock it. Thomas says he did that one in San Jose. We're looking at San Diego. Love that city. Haven't been. Here's what I'm thinking about races, by the way. It has been, I haven't done a race since 2018. I did my last 50K. Hey, Richard. I'm thinking about doing a 25K trail race in October, so 2 months from now, without doing anything other than the running, walking that I do now, and the burpees. I'm interested to see how my burpee training translates into something else. Now, I know to do an ultra, you need the time on your feet. So that's why I'm doing the 25K versus the 50K. If I get the 25K in, maybe I'll consider a winter 50K. Lewis is making plans for Thomas to head down to San Diego and do the half Rock and Roll Marathon with him. You know what? I think you should invite Paul from Oregon as well. Richard says he thinks he would do fine. It would be an interesting experiment to see. You know, my ultra base isn't gone, but it's holding on by a thread right now. I raced at least a 50K a month, if not more, for almost 10 years. In a 10-year time span, I got well over 100 ultras. It is what it is, says all of us come on down. I'll come down and cheer. And Paul from Oregon was quick to say, no marathons for this one. Marathons are a lot of fun. I think some of the best ways to actually see a city is to do a big city marathon. Paul says that he will willfully fight people with sticks. No marathons. That's just crazy. Here, I'm thinking of a new sport. Stick fighting marathons. You run with your sticks, and out of the blue, someone from the crowd will leap in front of you. You got to put them down. You got to put them down fast. And then continue. 26.2 miles. Thomas says he'll bring his sticks. I had a brief fling with some Indonesian styles and some stick work. So, all right, guys, it is approaching the end of my time. We've extended it. I've been trying to bring it in tight. Yeah, it was pretty cool, Paul. I didn't stick with it long. I was at a school that offered, people came and taught their own thing. You know, it was a studio, and my instructor for grappling and Thai boxing was also doing some other things, and I would just sit in, never, never pursuing it, never. I did do a little in-class tournament and spent much of the time running in circles to avoid being hit by a stick. Um, but I got a T-shirt out of it that I wore proudly for years until it literally fell from my body. Um, Thomas says he's uplifted by this talk. Big thanks to Eric and everyone here. Actually, I really appreciate you guys showing up and putting up with all the stuff that I talk about, which is, some of it, my own family at this point are like, yeah, we get it. You like yoga. You think meditation solves all the problems in the world. Just breathe. We get the point, Eric. Just breathe. Which I do have a tendency to recommend breath work. Breathe. It'll fix everything. Before I end the conversation, I am going to put in how important your breath is. Because your breath, you can change your physiology. What else do you have besides taking a drug where you can instantly change your physiology, your nervous state, where you can go from sympathetic nervous state to the parasympathetic nervous state in less than 5 minutes? You can't even do that with a drug. I've been told. You can't do that with alcohol. It takes how many beers? I haven't had a drink in 23 years. 24, I think. So it would only take a beer for me. But 5 minutes of breathing, I've changed everything. I've changed my emotional state. I've changed my the very state of my central nervous system from fight or flight to rest and recover. Richard says, this is the reason VO2 max is so important for runners and cyclists. Yes. Again, I just can't, I'm happy to teach breath work, the basics, anyone who wants to know. I got some videos on my channel, and it's so simple. How to wake yourself up, how to keep yourself even keeled, how to go to sleep. You want to stay calm, breathe in through the nose, easy count of 4, through your belly. Put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. The chest should not move, the belly should go up and down. Breathe in through the nose for a count of 4, breathe out of the nose for a count of 4. Repeat for 10 rounds, and you'll feel the difference. If you want to really relax, breathe in for a count of 4, always through the nose, breathe out for a count of 8, 10 rounds. You'll be nice and relaxed. If you want to deepen that, on the 8 count, breathing out, use the pranayama mudra, block off your nose, left side, breathe out for a count of 8. Breathe in both nostrils, count of 4, breathe out, left nostril for a count of 8. You'll be ready for bed. No time. Absolutely amazing what you can do with your own breath. You don't have to pay for it. Hello, Paige. So, this actually might end up being a PR for talks. This might be my longest talk yet. And I know if Mocha was here, she'd be like, you think everything's a PR. Everything you do, is some kind of PR where you're ready to high five, which is true. It's all a PR. I always think that in every workout. I got as many reps as I could today after what I did yesterday. Instantly makes it a PR. So, all right, guys. So it is time for me to end this. I got my own afternoon meditation session coming on. Richard, thanks for joining. Take care. Cole says, hey. and I will see everyone. Have a good day. You have a good day too, my friend. Um, Lewis, have a great day. Let me know if you run out and you decide to get lasagna for the night. Duncan, thank you for popping in, and thank you for the answer to the riddle and for presenting the riddle itself. Um, Paul from Oregon, always a welcome presence. Um, always happy when I know you're here, because conversation, uh, whatever we're talking about, you're going to have something great to offer. Thomas, I appreciate you being here, and Destiny as well. Both you guys are a much appreciated presence. So, all right, guys, I will see you all tomorrow, man, for burpee time. Take care.